quiet charm holds the attention of large audiences. But it is in an intimate setting that guitarist Gene Lawrence is at his best. Mastery of the strings and his easy rapport with the audience work together to create his subtle magnetism. He was only 11 when the gift of the guitar from his father gave birth to his love affair with the instrument.
Presented with my first guitar at age 11. My father had left a guitar with a good friend of his, and he thought I was old enough at 11 to give this to me. I didn't have any inkling of this at all, and my father had gone away during the war was on, and he was in the RAF, and so he left a guitar. He used to play, of course, and he was very well known in St. Vincent as a guitarist. So that's my first experience with the guitar. I didn't even know how to tune the instrument. I sort of just fiddled around till I got something sounding right, like a chord, and used to just bar the whole guitar with my finger to make a chord, a sound, you know, but I had no idea of how to position your fingers or anything at all.
So did you ever listen to your father play the guitar at all?
Yes, he came back. He really stayed on after the war in England, but he did come back on holidays to St. Vincent. And it was quite an experience to hear him play this guitar, you know. It was a revolution because I was playing totally differently, you know. And from then on, I sort of gradually got more involved with the guitar, looking at other people, and I was virtually self-taught up to that stage, up into my middle teens. Because not many people used to play the guitar, really, at that time. You know, lots of your friends today have a guitar. Almost every second house in the street would have a guitar. But at that time, you know, you never used to see that much. People used to go to piano lessons a lot. But the guitar was not an instrument that was that popular. So that it was difficult to find somebody who taught the guitar or was interested enough to teach you the guitar. You had to kind of learn on your own going along, you know.
Do you think that if your father hadn't left you that guitar, that you would ever have become interested in the instrument?
Probably not as keenly. Probably not as keen, because I had the instruments from so young. And I had immediate interest in it because it was a fantastic thing to get as a gift. I remember, you know, the keyboard was mother of pearl. I've never seen another guitar like that ever again, you know. And I didn't know how to care it, of course. It wasn't in a case or anything, and years after it did get destroyed. I kept it for many years, but I did lose it eventually when I was living in Grenada. But really and truly, I was very excited about getting an instrument like that. This belonged to me, this beautiful looking thing.
Can you remember sort of starting to strum it? How you
Sure.
felt, what you...
Yes, it was very exciting. And my first chords that I eventually learned how to tune the guitar properly was by a group of people used to come around Christmas time. And they serenaded from house to house. And funny enough, they never used to play calypsos. The songs that they used to sing were more like country and western type of things. What we used to call western songs, from the western movies, of course. You can't get away from that American influence at all. And one of the guys came in, he used to yodel very well and so and sing all these Roy Rogers type tunes. And he taught me, showed me how to tune the instrument correctly. And that was the first time I learned to tune the guitar. And from that I wrote out diagrams of where to put your fingers. And that was my beginnings in the guitar, really.
A totally self-taught musician, Gene emphasizes that his most powerful influence has been the steel band.
I wrote this piece a few years ago. It's called Sugar George. Sugar was a pan man. He's the sort of guy that many of us have met in our lifetimes, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago. As a little boy, he was in short pants in the yard, in the pan yard, learning how to wrap sticks and trying to beat pan. And then as a teenager, Sugar was still there. Now he could beat pan, and he was learning how to make pans, how to improve the pan. And as a full-grown man, when we had all gone our different ways, Sugar was still there in the pan yard, improving pan technique and improving pan itself. And as a mature man, he dies. And you could virtually say, from cradle to grave, Sugar had devoted his entire life to the improvement and development of pan. Nobody ever really knew of this. It doesn't make his contribution any the less. And so this song was written in way of a tribute to the several Sugar Georges of Trinidad and Tobago. Sugar George. Trying to take credit for we steal band music. All of we who lime in the panyard know how things are. That's where Sugar George was born. He worked till he gone, giving his life to improving pan was his contribution. Georgie, though you're gonna leave with your talent on the pan, the Sugar Boy will always live on and on and on and on. Sugar, this sweet pan you play, leave we with something to look up to every day. I remember one night when Sugar played on the Savannah, hunchy shoulders over the tenor, the notes ring loud and clear. When he done tears in the eye, the place was real quiet. Then suddenly, like we went wild, we shout, we cheer, we clap. Georgie, though you're gonna leave with your talent on the pan, the Sugar Boy will always live on and on and on and on. Sugar, this sweet pan you play, leave we with something to look up to every day. Come and go, but nobody knows. Not a mark in the page of history for we children to see. But the work he left behind will last through all time. And when sweet pan playing anywhere, part of Sugar George there. Georgie, though you're gonna leave me, on the pan, Sugar Boy will always live on and on and on and on. Sugar, this sweet pan you play, leave we with something to look up to every day. Georgie, George, Sugar George, Georgie. Where you did, George? Sugar, where you did? What influenced me a lot with my guitar was the steel band. Because I used to be playing a lot on my own. I was involved in pan in the early days as well. And pan had a way, the bass had a very definite rhythm, and the second pans used to strum. And I used to try to capture that, the rhythm that made me feel good was the calypso strum and the calypso rhythm, and I used to try to duplicate that in the guitar. And hence I kind of developed a style where I will pluck in the bass quite separately to the treble, you know. So this was the bass, the steel band bass was going there, you know, and that influenced a lot of my playing, like even if somebody was being accompanied by me.
In the early 1950s, Gene beat second pan with the popular Silver Stars Steel Orchestra and was a part of Olive Walk's La Petite Musicale between 1953 and 1959.
Olive, as you probably know, is one of our great folklorists, and she really captured and was able to get a lot of material that would otherwise have been lost from all different parts of the countryside. Different folk songs, French influence, some with Spanish influence, you know, and she really had a terrific, almost like archives. And I was invited to play with her a few times. Actually,
Trinidad.
This is in Trinidad, and I was a member of the group for quite a long time. Buntin Plummer was the other guitarist, and we had a lovely thing going with Olive for quite a while. And I would say performing with her, we did things like at Government House, and we did a few concerts with her. And we did a record once, Cook Records was a big company at that time. One tune was extremely popular, which we used to play at many venues, was a thing called Mangoes. I don't know if you remember. I want a penny to buy mango rose, mango vert. I say, give me a penny to buy mango rose, mango vert. Mango doodoo, savez-vous, all for you. Savez-vous, all for you. Well, Olive was very good at finding these melodies and then projecting them and giving them to the public. And I think that's the first time I really was conscious of myself performing and sounding quite good on the guitar.
After a 3-year membership with the first string band and combo in Trinidad, the Silver Strings, Gene went to London to pursue his studies.
Gene, what took you to London?
I thought it was time to do some studies, and I thought of trying to make a career for myself in the construction industry, and I couldn't really study it here properly. And I think as well my father lived there, and I wanted to see him and to get exposed to that way of life a bit. I thought it would be a whole educational thing.
Did you have music in mind?
I did, but to a lesser degree, because at that time it was very difficult to make a living as a full-time musician in Trinidad and Tobago. And I knew I was coming back here to live. So that had to take second place. And unfortunately, that influenced me a lot in England as well.
Though he did not have music in mind, the talented musician was soon playing saxophone in London and formed a quintet called Triniana, a Latin-style band which performed at shows with the Dixieland Steel Orchestra and at numerous venues in England.
Larry Constantine's life was being done, and we were a West Indian group that was very well known. We used to play for all the West Indian functions there. You know, when the cricketers were there and they toured at that time, we were invited to play for them at the Waldorf Hotel and so on. So the West Indian High Commission there knew us quite well. Not West Indian, but the Trinidad High Commission. And so when Larry's life was being done, we were invited to be the band to perform with him. And they asked me to write a special calypso in his honor, as it were, which I did.
Can you remember it now?
I doubt if I can remember that. You're talking about 1961 or 62. It was something like, "This is your life, Salieri. This is your life chose you to be on their program, guest of honor." It is truly, I can't remember it. But it went on quite well because we used a tenor pan. Vic Gonsalves, who played vibes with us, also played a tenor pan, which was a novel instrument to the English public. So we were dressed sort of in Latin American outfits, and he would play this tenor pan, and I played guitar, and we had bass and conventional instruments with the tenor pan, and singing the calypso from Larry's life.
A versatile musician, Gene Lawrence plays a mandolin and especially enjoys the quattro, the potential of which he feels has not yet been fully explored, as in Trinidad it is considered merely an instrument for strumming. Gene, what is it about the quattro that fascinates you so much?
Well, it's a very unusual instrument. It's an instrument that you don't find in many parts of the world to begin with, and you grow up with the quattro in the Caribbean, particularly in Trinidad and in Venezuela, which are the only two countries in the world really that uses the quattro as an instrument really. And I think with the new techniques that musicians have been able to develop in the last few years, the quattro has now become a solo instrument in its own right, very much as the guitar used to be. And because of this, there are lots of expansion, a lot of new things that can be done with the quattro. You can now play a lot of tunes that you never used to be able to do before. And so it's a fairly new instrument, a new folk instrument really, and it's developing still. So it's interesting from that point of view.
Excited by the style of Earl Clues on the acoustic guitar, the way he plays his melodies, flirting with the keyboard. He likes to think of himself as playing that way, and concentrates on fingerstyle acoustic guitar, playing classical, folk, and popular music. Recently, he has had some formal training.
Recently I've had some formal training, some help, because I find you can develop to a certain stage, but then you do need a technique. And if I were to advise any young person, I'd say go and get lessons early, because you can waste an awful lot of time finding out about it yourself. Whereas you can get this first hand from somebody who has had the experience and knows exactly what should be done. And so you develop much quicker. Morning, Joan. It's a nice early morning.
The financial insecurity of professional music in the early days was yet another of the reasons that forced him to opt for another profession in the construction industry. By day, he is fully involved in his Newtown business.
Right, yes, so Mr. Mapp will just call me to discuss the email I have made.
Sure. There's not going to be so much to repeat. We start one by say they don't show us where we feed.
At nights, he captivates audiences throughout the country with his music. Gene likes to sing calypso, often taking various songs and interpreting them into calypsos.
Now we talking fluent, more than you and me. Affiliator for Webster Dictionary. Tarzan really say me like dog for soup. And Tarzan in the Tarzan of long. Tarzan wearing his watch on Bobby hand. And he making sweet eye at my woman. Oh yeah.
There's an old song, Lady of Spain, and sort of the original version probably was somewhere like... Right, that sort of feel. But with the pan influence, that came out to me more like this. That sort of idea, you know, the heavy steel band bass and the rhythm on top, because the second pans used to be jiggy all the time, you know, so that the rhythm changed totally.
Often, Gene entertains close friends at home, and all join in the spontaneous singing of old-time calypso. Kaiso, his first recording, which he describes as one of the highlights of his career, featured many of these traditional calypsos. When you came back, Gene, what did you get into musically here?
The first few things, I did a few shows, and then the first really big musical experience would probably be with Syl Dobson and John Buddy Williams, John Henderson, a fellow called Willie West, who has since died. They decided to do an old-time calypso record, capturing the old traditional feeling of calypso. And I think Henry De Freitas was sort of the entrepreneur behind it. And we went to a little studio in Woodbrook to do this. And I think that would be one of the very first things of real consequence that I did after coming back. I enjoyed it. It was a statement that was being made, and I think it was done very well, because in the studio it was very easy, very relaxed sort of attitude. You know, we weren't doing all this overdubbing that is done today. You know, these days you put down a rhythm track, and then somebody comes and puts on a lead instrument, and then somebody puts on a voice and so on. This was done all at the same time, just as if you're performing on a stage. And I think because of that, the whole atmosphere was different, and that was captured on the record. It came over very well. This was called Kaiso 1, which I still hear tracks of it being played today. You know, they did a lot of the old Lavway things. Hooray! I don't know if I can give you an idea. Hooray! Wamwe oha, leve la melatio. Hooray! Wamwe oha, leve la melatio. That sort of thing, and the instruments would solo between the vocal parts, you know. Syl Dobson played clarinet, Willie West played tenor sax.
Gene is fascinated by Parang, and his rendition of Rio de Manzanares with his Latin American feel has been one of his most popular arrangements.
Rio Manzanares, déjame pasar que mi madre enferma me mandó a llamar.
He featured this unique version in his first long-playing record, Saturday Night, Sunday Morning. Sunset to Sunrise and Special Delivery followed, and his latest release, Together, features many original compositions.
Gene, over the years, would you say you've developed a technique of your own?
Yes, Judy, I suppose I have really, because having done some formal training in classical and flamenco guitar in recent years, none of their techniques are exactly how I play. I mean, some of it may be my technique may be termed incorrect from a classical point of view. Sometimes the way you hold the guitar, or the way you pluck the strings and so on. But there are pros and cons to both of them, because whereas I might not be able to execute some of the classical music as efficiently and as well as somebody with proper classical technique, you may find that the classical player cannot play the folk stuff that I would do, and some of the stuff with real rhythm in it, the same way that I would project it, because of a difference in technique, which they would have to learn that technique to sound like that, just like I have to learn theirs to play the classics. But you do develop a technique when you play on your own a lot.
Would you say that a lot of this technique is a result of the influence of your being a West Indian?
Well, I would say undoubtedly because of the rhythm particularly. And the steel band, I can't escape that at all. The steel band has been a terrific influence in my style of playing, because I always hear that rhythm and that bass line, and so, you know. I've done a piece called El Comanchero, which probably would demonstrate that. Because it has a lot of the rhythm, and it is certainly not done with any classical technique. Let me just see if I can get this together and give you an idea of what I mean. I'm going to try and play the melody, and the melody will be played with a lot of rhythm at the same time. Most people will know this song. It's an old samba, and my rhythm has changed it a little bit, and it's more like a calypso samba sort of thing.
Gene Lawrence's professionalism, his tireless devotion to the guitar and to all aspects of his music, and his gentle and unassuming manner continue to endear him to the public for whom he performs.